And it wasn't a thing that we did in our house.
Just like putting spaghetti with fried fish, but we ain't gonna talk about that.
I don't get that. That's that Memphis Mike.
This man.
That Memphis Mike. This right here in my heart. This right here in my heart. Welcome to Different Thought, where thinking matters. What's up, everyone? What's up, everybody out there? This is Mike Hayes with Different Thought Podcast with my co-host,
The Deuce.
That don't even make sense, bro. Whatever. The Deuce, also known as Justin McBath. And, welcome to Different Thought Podcast. We'll examine the culture.
That's right. Yeah, the Deuce. 2 fingers like a plate. You know what I'm saying? First off, we want to start off by thanking our sponsor, the Debonair Club, for being one of our greatest sponsors here. And when you go talk to them and look them up on Instagram, make sure you mention Different Thought Podcast.
All right, moving on. So as always, we kick off the show with our Straight Like That. So Justin, I'll let you start off your Straight Like That.
I feel like I always have to go first. That's what. Nope. I'm gonna do mine first. Thank you. No, I was watching. You ever watch Mixed Dish?
Yes, I haven't, but I know what you're talking about.
This show's hilarious. So the little girl on there, she cracks me up. She always she's kind of like the comedic relief. But she said this isn't a negative thing. But she said black people hot salad to her family because her parents are mixed, and she had never had greens before, or she had greens but didn't know what they were called. So she was like, can we get some more of that black people hot salad? And I hollered. I was like, black people hot salad? Oh, collard greens. Okay. Just thought that was really funny.
So that's your Straight Like That?
That's my Straight Like That.
Black people hot salad.
Black people hot salad.
So my Straight Like That, last month we had the Super Bowl, and everybody wanted to label a certain person the GOAT. And I just come to a conclusion that there's no such thing as a GOAT in football. It's the ultimate team sport. Yeah, Tom Brady had a decent game, but if it wasn't for that defense, it would be a whole nother game in my opinion. So yeah, that's all I got. So as we keep it moving, talk about our Take a Shot for You. And Take a Shot for You is basically either it's a good shot or it's a bad shot. And I'll go ahead and kick us off. My shot is for my mother, Angela Hayes. This month will be her birthday, March the 11th. And I just want to give you a shout out, Mother, and thank you for inspiring me to learn about my history as a black man. Justin, I'll let you go ahead and get started.
That almost made me want to sing Boys to Men,
Mama, Mama, I love you. Go ahead, my bad.
Yeah, that's what was running through my head. I'm going to take a shot, Black History Month moment. Wendell Scott, the first black NASCAR driver, and the reason I mentioned Wendell Scott is because the Daytona 500 just ran. Unfortunately, and this was the first race of the Michael Jordan racing team, so the first black owner in NASCAR racing. So, Team 23, Bubba Watson's 23 car. It's kind of neat to see the evolution of that when literally Bubba Watson or Wendell Scott, he would be winning races and they would not wave the checkered flag because they didn't want him to win for one simple reason, is that the white models traditionally kiss the winner of the race. And because they didn't want the white model to kiss a black man, they would withhold the checkered flag and not wave it until the next car came through to say, just so he wouldn't win the race and default him. So, give it up for Wendell Scott. And look up more about Wendell Scott because it's really important history, and really he's one of the main reasons racing is why it is today. And it hasn't moved far much, but it has made a lot of progress.
And what you drinking, my brother?
I'm on the Bro Brothers today, and tell the folks about the Bro Brothers they didn't already know.
Bro Brothers is a black-owned whiskey that is brewed in Kentucky. I believe it is the first black-owned whiskey brewed in Kentucky, so there you have it. I'm drinking Terramana tequila. Shout out to The Rock. Please pay us for this. And like I said, Mom, my shots for you. And with that, I'll roll again to in the news before we really get into the discussion. As you may know, or you may not know yet, but the topic of today's episode is All Black Thoughts Matter? Question mark.
That's dangerous.
Yeah. So here recently in Chattanooga, where we're at, East Ridge Middle School, they had a little bit of a controversy. So the East Ridge principal, Christy Drake, released a newsletter in early February that revealed the school's Black History theme, which was All Lives Matter. And since the release, Drake received a lot of backlash over the controversial theme, and has since issued an apology, citing that the intent was the school's motto, "Every student matters." So, Justin, let's talk about the reaction. Like, Black Twitter, the internets, it got on CNN. It was everywhere. Charlemagne the God. How's what's his name said? Webby Charlemagne Charlemagne. Woo. Anyways, but Charlemagne the God basically came out, and Christy Drake was the donkey of the day, and things of that nature. Give it to you. Like, what was your reaction when you saw this?
I was I was kind of confused. Like I was like, why would you? I mean, it's like I wanted to understand and have like some empathy and really think about, okay, there has to be a good reason for this. And then I was like, maybe any other month, like any of the other 11 months. But this one is like it's very intentional, the reason for this. So the all lives matter thing, when you start doing that, that's the same. That's equivalent to, I don't see color, and so it's like the color piece or the ethnicity piece is important because we got to recognize our differences and why people, what makes people different in the backgrounds and the experiences they've gone through and how we react to them. So it's definitely tone deaf, and I think she was just trying to appease too many people, and she had the wrong people in her ear at that time to allow her to do that.
I somewhat know Christy, just from being from Chattanooga. We've been involved in the same circles. Well, my parents have been involved in the same circles, and I mean, I kind of agree with you. I feel like it was it wasn't. She didn't think that one through, given the climate of what's been going on here lately. I do think that reading her apology, and when she was talking about there's a mural in the school that says every student matters, and so she was trying to play into that, and I don't think she thought it through. I will also say, having being married to an educator who happens to have been a principal, sometimes things like this happen where, I mean, my wife has never done anything like this, but I've seen it where you have so much going on that you think of something like, oh, that, and you don't really think it through. And with that, let's get into this. Part of the discussion today is, we talk about how Black people are not monolithic, but instead, when a Black person says something that is not the typical Black thing to say, we choose to attack instead of like, hey, that's their opinion. They're entitled to their opinion. I don't want nothing to do with it. That's their opinion. So, I mean, let's dive into this. Like, what for you? What does monolithic mean, Justin?
Well, mono, single, one. You all kind of move and stand for the same thing. It's kind of the way I look at monolithic people, or monolith in general. And so you mean like in the context of this discussion?
Yeah,
I mean, in terms of being a monolithic people, yeah, Black folks, there we have a tendency to, like I've said it before, this assumption we all in the same boat type thing, and we all got to row together to get there. And we've long since been put in different boats, or got out of that boat and got into other boats and figured out how we're going to move. But we still want to have that same level of kinship. And what's the saying? Skinship ain't, or skin folk ain't kinfolk.
Yeah, skin folk ain't kinfolk.
So it's that's I think that's I think that's the natural evolution of how society is going to move, especially like in the democratic capitalistic society, some people will get opportunities, and for a while everybody was suppressed and depressed and held out from opportunities. And then recently, more people have had those opportunities to make money and separate themselves, but we still want to try to have this brotherhood and kinship thing. And I think that's a good thing, but we have to, I don't know if we've evolved to the point of allowing diversity of thought within a group of people. And we still want to have that monolithic, that single way of thinking, because we all in the struggle together, when really we ain't all in it the same anymore like we used to be. And that's the scary part and the dangerous part, and what ends up dividing us and then creating the crabs in a barrel type mentality.
So I think to add on to that, I agree. We're all at different stages, but I think at some point every black person realizes we all in this struggle together.
Yeah.
Because no matter how far ahead you get or how much accolades you get, there will come a point when you realize, as Kanye said, even if you in a even if you in a Bentley, you still a N-word in the coupe.
Yeah.
So, and I may have misquoted.
And that's right. And that's what I always tell people. It's like when people like a light skinned person or something like that, says that I'm like a different ethnicity, like maybe a Dominican person or something like that. It's like, I go by however the police officer is going to identify you. Yeah. So in that case, when somebody with a gun can assume that you are a threat, that's kind of the way I look at it in terms of monolithic.
So in this discussion of monolithicness, as you say, what does it mean to you to be black? Like, what does being black mean? And I'll tell you what I think.
Ooh, go ahead.
You go first.
Oh, I get to go first? What does it mean to be black? I guess blackness to me is defined by a common struggle. I mean, it's just a general common struggle, and the ability to identify with people who went through that struggle. And I think about my father and the fact that he was born in 1939, and thinking about, like, dude literally grew up through like a World War, Jim Crow segregation in the South, and then started his own company and as an entrepreneur, and like being able to evolve through that. No, he wasn't born a slave, and that is not the beginning of Black history. But at the same time, I can identify with that and be like, okay, I came from a survivor. I came from somebody who understood how to push through different obstacles in order to succeed in society as it's structured today. So to me, that's what being black and what Black history means to me. But I also have to recognize that not everybody has had those same opportunities and had the same opportunities to, I guess, get a leg up. Because some people try to do that exact same thing and take that same path and get denied. So, and what makes them different from me, in that sense?
For me, it depends on the day, man. Some days I feel like being black it should be nothing but your skin color.
Yeah, it should be right. That's right.
Which it should stop. It should start and end there. And then other days it's that trace back to Africa. And why I say it's the trace back to Africa, because there are a lot of brown brothers and sisters, like Puerto Ricans and Mexicans and things of that nature, that are tied to our background, and so there are, in a sense, to me, black. You should go look that up and do some more history on that. But I also think it's about pride and family, and we're very tight knit and things of that nature. Why I think sometimes we tend to attack one another when someone steps out of line, quote unquote. So that's what it means for me.
Before you leave that though, I want to add to that. Another thing about blackness, people get mad, but it's BS though, because like blackness is not a color, blackness is a culture, and that's the problem. That's the problem, I think, with the whole thing. It's a construct, it's a culture, but we want to assume it's about color.
I'm so glad that you said that, because that is a good segue into the next part of this discussion, the black card. Yeah, we always talk about how did our blackness become so subjective or objective to stereotypes. Yep. We get angry when we hear terms like "you people," or CP time or things of that nature. But then it's kind of a convoluted double double standard in a sense. So I guess what I want to talk about is this black card thing. I've always
the black card, boy. You know how many times my black card been pulled for me?
I mean, mine has never been pulled.
Man, no, but it's been pulled for me by people like you. Because apparently you ain't never pulled it, but I'm just saying apparently your black card is stronger than mine, and maybe you got a higher credit limit on your black card than me. Like that's what I understand. It's like what are the terms of pulling a black card? That's what I'm saying. I've never defaulted on a black loan. How about that?
My credit is high, son. That's the other thing I got excellent credit in.
Here. We'll take that blackness somewhere else in the country, you're gonna get revoked. So like that's the point. It's like
don't get it twisted. It's been questioned a couple of times. Just because I had a different thought, pun intended. So what are your thoughts on the black card?
Again, it is a construct to take broken and hurt people and make them fight against each other. You got a whole race of people that are carrying centuries of trauma that are all trying to succeed in a space that is not really set up for them to succeed. And then, so in order to make myself feel better and deal with the stress that I've got going on, and I'm surrounded by other people that are supposed to be going through that same struggle, but they aren't necessarily doing that. Well, now I have to, as a defense mechanism, I have to make up something and some reason to say why this person is less than me. The same reason why poor Irish slaves who were getting paid pennies, could say they were better than black slaves because they were getting paid pennies. So they both slaves. Yeah. So it's like, at the end of the day, I think it's just another means of people to take from each other in order to make oneself feel better. And it's all just like PTSD that's passed down from generation to generation.
I mean, I feel you. I think for me, this whole discussion of blackness is just to go back to this whole black card thing. I think I define blackness as knowing yourself. And what I mean by knowing yourself, knowing your history. Because one thing about you, because you always think that I thought when I first met you were Uncle Tom. I never thought that because I would question and then I would hear you say things like, you talk about, what was your shot for you?
Black people salad? Or Wendell Scott?
Wendell Scott. You would just apply it to the things that you loved. Yeah. Like you like cars, you like racing cars. Yeah. So you would apply black history to that. I like baseball. If you ever been in my house, you'll see that there's a Negro League painting in my house. My great grandfather played in the Negro League. So for me, it's all tied to what you love and how you know yourself within that. And so I think that a lot of times we try to, well, if you have never, like the other day, I'm going to put myself on Fun Street. The other day, I was this old when I found out about butter on a grilled cheese sandwich. I, growing up, used to make grilled cheese sandwiches in the oven. I used to make cheese toast and put the butter and put it on there. But we never used butter. And so then I was called bougie.
Give me your black card, bro. You supposed to put that grease on that thing, man.
Yes, but I never did that because we just didn't. It wasn't a thing that we did in our house.
Just like putting spaghetti with fried fish, but we ain't gonna talk about
that. I don't get that. That's that Memphis man. That Memphis man. This right here, my heart. This right here, my heart. It ain't about the size of the dog, but it's the fight that the dog, the cows got, dog. You know what I'm saying, man? No, man. I just I feel like as a black people, this goes back to, I didn't get to mention it in the first episode, but here it comes. Black agenda. This is why the black agenda is important, because once again, we don't know what we can't get on one page about anything.
But the black card ain't got nothing to do with that.
Yes, it does, because if I got 20 people in this room, right, all black, and we start talking about the black agenda, somebody's gonna say something, and they be like, "Man, you ain't black."
You're right. But
I guess, give me your black card.
I guess I'm just thinking like black card is like experiences like growing up, like basically a black card is like a product of like how you were raised,
because your experiences growing up are going to dictate what you think should go on the black agenda, because of the way you mistreated. If you've never been pulled over by a cop and mistreated by a cop, you're not gonna advocate much for police reform. You may say, I think we need to start teaching our kids how to deal with police and not have attitude.
So in that case, then you shouldn't just have black people involved in the black agenda, because that's really the issue. Is we keep trying to take black people to move.
I spit hot fire. Justin McBath, our Deuce is what he called himself.
We keep trying to take just black people who have a big picture shared experience, but within that shared experience is very diverse, to move an agenda that we don't really have enough momentum to move by ourselves. And you just acknowledged that all black people can't say they've had the same experiences with police. Neither can all white people. But police reform is still important. So I think we keep trying to do this, man, let's band together, when it's like our brother Fred Hampton tried to do. We know it takes more than just us to make things move, and I'm glad we got to see some of that movement happen this past summer.
Yeah, I mean, most def, it takes somebody outside of the culture, let's call it that, to say this is not right. I mean, if you go back and read Martin Luther King and the writings of Malcolm X and others, you have to have an ally that says, because I mean that's the gist of why Martin Luther King used to use the nonviolence approach, is because, hey, I'm gonna get these cameras on me, and when y'all white folks that got some type of heart gonna see me getting beat to a pulp for just marching and saying we shall overcome. And then y'all gonna say, okay, y'all gotta do something about this, because this is not cool. So yeah, man. I guess let's keep it moving.
Yeah. Just to close it out, though, the black card is a dangerous thing. I've always felt like it was a dangerous thing, just because the way it can be used to destroy a group of people. I mean, from the inside, and it's not even intentional, because we created it. It's it's not like cocaine. It was put in the communities.
So here's my different thought. Kind of is that I think that is not true. I think it was created by the conspiracy theorist in me feels like it was created back in William Lynch, when they said, hey, take one of your slaves and impregnate that, have sex with her, rape her, whatever, have her, and then put those light-skinned children in the house. I think the black card started there, because you're not real. You're not real to me. You enjoying that life, and I'm out here struggling. I'm gonna take your black card. I think the black card is tied to struggle. I think it's bar none is like, if you haven't experienced struggle, you don't know what it's like to be black. You haven't had this black experience. Therefore, your black card must be taken. So I mean, with that being said, I guess the different thought, we've kind of talked about it already, but I had in my notes is, if black people are really not non-monolithic, what justifies our blackness? What justifies, we've been talking about this all along, but what justifies me being black? And I go back to what I said, for me, is it's a skin color. It's not, but if you want to talk about the culture, the black culture of being an African American, is the struggle. And if you haven't struggled, then you are assumed that you have not struggled. You are. I'm glad you put that in there, because some people think that this person has moved up the ranks so easily. He ain't really struggled. He just played the game, and he Uncle Tom'd his way up to the top. And I don't think people realize there's a struggle there. When people hear that, oh, Mike, you went to like you, I was the same way. Oh, Mike, you went to a private school. Oh, you were in Jack and Jill of America. You did all this. Oh, you Silver Spoon. You good. And like, you don't really know my background to say if I've struggled or not. So yeah. So what's your spin?
I think it's a lot of that is akin to when men see a successful woman, they assume that they did it in a sexually promiscuous manner, and that's just how perverse that thought process is. The key to it is we got to just stop thinking as a group of people the worse or less of somebody because of their position in life.
And I go back. There was a discussion when we were gearing up to launch this podcast and we were practicing. Um, I remember we actually had a discussion about this, and we were talking about the struggle and things of that nature. And I brought this example up. I said, I'm a member of the greatest fraternity in the world, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. If you don't believe me, come see me. But anyways, I digress. And but you know what? I ain't gonna let's say this. I think that this is something that is prevalent in all MPAC Divine Nine organizations. Is that we love to challenge the heck out of each other, right? And I remember as when I crossed, there were some brothers that were challenging, and we basically just got to the point of, hey man, you don't know what I know, and I don't know what you know, so therefore you can't take my letters. Like I don't went through enough, quote unquote, to get my letters, and you're not gonna take it from me. And I think the same thing goes for the black card or being black. Is that it's not you can't say that I haven't struggled because you don't know you wasn't with me step by step of my life. You know, you don't know when I was taught the N word and how it affected my life and things of that nature. Just because I choose to handle it different doesn't mean that I'm not black. You know, and so I guess if we were to add on to the different thought is why is it that we attack each other? Like, why is it that, with Christy, granted, that theme was pretty stupid. I mean, I like that, but I didn't agree with what I didn't agree with was her getting a donkey of the day, and Charlamagne don't know nothing about her. Like, you know
He
nothing
don't know
about.
much about half the people who get.
But I agree. But that's why I don't like attacking people because, as my father used to say to me, was when I used to do stuff like that, son, keep waking up because you don't know what you will and will not do unless you in the. It goes back to that old saying like nobody's a shooter until you push them, or as Tupac would say, I ain't a killer, but don't push me. Yeah. You don't know what anybody's capable of until you put them in that situation. So, what's your spin on that?
It's tough. I mean, I guess I think about it like this. I Nobody wants to challenge their what their parents or their grandparents did. I ain't gonna go like I'm gonna talk bad about Mike, but I ain't gonna talk bad about Mike's dad. That's easy to do but you're the reason you are because of your parents and your grandparents and that experience and the way you were raised. Like for me, I look at the example that my father set for me and my siblings was that again, dude born in 1939 would intentionally not tell his kids about places that were segregated. He would not expose his kids to that because he didn't want them to grow up with that same level of PTSD or stress. I mean, he didn't know it at the time, but he understood what type of mental trauma that could create on a child and what kind of biases that could create for a child. So he was very deliberate on how he placed us in life. I mean, like my older brother was the first black kid to integrate a school where I grew up and those types of things. But as a kid around other black kids that didn't have that same experience or that same upbringing, I could be looked at as less black because I don't carry myself as somebody who is maybe even paranoid or assuming the worst of another, something like that. And I think that's the unfortunate expectation of what being black and coming of the struggle is that you have to have some level of paranoia associated with the other. And I've been fortunate enough to have been exposed to the other to know that there's good and bad in both groups or all groups.
I'll go one step further. I think that the majority of us, let me not speak for all black people, but I think all of us have seen the good and bad in the other. but I think that the bad outweighs the good, because yeah, I come across good, genuine good people, but sometimes I come across those people in in One Night in Miami, the opening scene with Jim Brown, where the guy sitting there, and spoiler alert, but the guy sitting there, I forget the guy's name. He's like, I'm all for you, whatever you need. I always be there for you. I help you out, blah 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 blah. And Jim Brown and they all sitting down, and then he's like, I need to move this partner, and Jim Brown's like, man, let me help you. And you're like, come on, Jim. We can't let N words in the house. And it's just like I've been around people like that too. It's just like,
yeah, it's like that scene was like such a shock to me. Like you sitting there like, oh, this what's up, and then like it was just like such a heart punch though. I mean, yeah, because like they set it up to where it's like, okay, this is like way too positive, perfect. And this is in the middle of the '60s, like something's up here. But it was still like it was such a heart punch like scene to where it was just like, man, that makes sense though. Like, and it was just kind of like that snake in sheep's clothing type thing. And yeah, I mean that's unfortunately the harsh reality is the overt racism for people who mean well, I guess. Like Branch Rickey with the Dodgers.
So here's my ending different thought, I guess, is that people get out and talk. Get out and talk. Conversation rules the nation. And I think that if we were to, instead of being so fearful of the other part, and just have some conversation, yeah, they're gonna piss you off, and you're gonna piss them off. Yeah. Y'all gonna both be pissed off at some points of that conversation. But if we start to come to the table with an open mind and have a dialogue where, hey man, I feel this way when you all do this, or why do y'all do this, or why do y'all, and have that dialogue, I think that it opens us up, and and then also have a dialogue with people that look like you, because everybody doesn't think the same. Everybody's different. You're gonna find and I think that I always say this. I think that you alienate allies that can really help you when you attack just because they have a different thought than you. Yeah. I think that you have to be able to understand that everybody wasn't raised like you, doesn't look like you, doesn't think like you. And so therefore, and they have different experiences, so therefore they're different. So therefore you have to listen to what they have to say, and then you never know who you might link up with, and they in a situation they like, you know what, hey, I know a guy perfect for this. But you alienate them by just saying, like, now if they are coming out here saying white power and stuff, I understand. Like, you have to be discerning about who you choose to link up with. But I'm just saying, conversation doesn't hurt. What's your last take?
I guess I'm gonna say this because it's actually a pretty good segue. So I just started listening to a book called Think Again by Adam Grant, and it basically explores that very thought process of, why do we hold so strong to all these biases? Like human beings are willing to we'll go through and change our diets because it needs to be something different. We'll go through and renovate our homes because it needs to be something different. We'll go through and change our bread spread because we're tired of the way it looks. But we won't change our convictions that we hold so strong to because it is our quote unquote our identity, which then puts us into a monolithic frame of thought. So he explores it in four different mindsets in the way people think: the prosecutor, the preacher, the politician, and the scientist. And I'm going to leave it right there for people to go explore, because the reality of it is that any of us can be any four of those at any given point in time. But it's about how you think and how we carry out and execute that.
I ask you this: what is the definition of insanity?
Repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
And I think and I'll leave it there. If you black people, think about that. If we continue to go down the same road, we will continue to be in the same. We have to start thinking different.
Then affects your mental health, and then it's a death spiral from there.
So, with that, you got anything else before I move on to our before you eat?
Monolithic thought is only as good as the one person assuming monolithic thought.
I feel like that deserves some type of... Well, with that, we're going to go ahead and move on to our Before You Eat segment. It is basically a Black History moment. Today's Black History Moment is we're not going to go to something that's not as well known, but we're going to talk about Brother Fred Hampton. As you know, there was a movie that just came out entitled Judas and the Black Messiah. If you have not seen it, you need to go see it. I suggest you see it and give yourself some time. If you like me, it pissed me off a little bit because I get tired of black people being misunderstood. But anyways, I digress. Fred Hampton was an active leader of the National Association of the Advancement of Colored People, also known as NAACP, leading their youth council of the organization's West Suburban branch. Hampton joined the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party in November of 1968. He quickly rose to a leadership position, becoming the deputy chairman of the Illinois chapter of the party. He organized rallies, established a free breakfast program, and negotiated peace pacts among rival gangs. As a rising leader in the Black Panther Party, Hampton became the focus of FBI investigations. On December 4th, 1969, Hampton, along with fellow Black Panther Mark Clark, were murdered. As a,
How old was
he was 21 years old, excuse me. So, um, as always, guys, I always challenge you to go look up more Fred Hampton, especially our Caucasian brothers and sisters out there that listen to the podcast, because the Black Panther Party has always gotten a bad name, but people don't realize they really were about uniting the community. They had their ways that were unconventional, but they were about uniting the community.
Think about this. The reason your kids might get free lunch is because of the Black Panther Party.
True that. So with that being said, as always, I challenge you all to go out there and find out more about Fred Hampton and the Black Panther Party. As always, think, do, be different. Thank you for listening to Different Thought Podcast.